Today, you're going to watch the 10 most uncomfortable and raw masterpieces in the history of cinema. Films that tackle profoundly disturbing themes without falling into gratuitous violence or cheap shock value. You won't find shits like a Serbian film or Salo here. This is about real cinema. Powerful, devastating, cold, uncomfortable. And at the same time, some of the greatest films ever made. Today on Cine Prime. Many films have portrayed the horror of the drug world, but none have dared to show it as starkly and hopelessly as Christiane F. Based on true events, it tells the story of a girl barely 13 years old, who, after starting to party, falls into a spiral of addiction that leads her to make the worst decision of her life, trying heroin. What's devastating about the film is that it doesn't aim to shock or move you, it just watches. It depicts, without embellishment or filters, how a teenager destroys her life and the lives of those around her. And the most disturbing part, in order to keep using, she ends up turning to prostitution. The film follows her decline from the very beginning, from an innocent girl at home to a gaunt, lost figure with no future, no dignity. But the worst part isn't watching her. It's realizing she wasn't an isolated case. She was part of an entire generation lost to heroin. The discomfort is constant, because the film never lets you breathe. Only watch how she shoots up, how she collapses, how she sells herself. Christiane F doesn't scream, doesn't cry. It just forces you to look. Many films show the horrors of war, but then there's Come and See. The story reveals the Nazi exterminations in Belarusian villages, but through the eyes of a poor boy. The film is brutally raw, disturbing, even without showing a single murder on screen. What we witness is a child going from the illusion of fighting for his country to losing absolutely everything, becoming a living corpse with a 1,000-yard stare that will haunt him for life. The title says it all. Come and see. Without artifice, without adornment, only the truth of what happened. There's no happy ending. What happened, happened. And it destroyed lives forever, including that of the boy. There's no epic music or heroic speeches. Just chaos, screams, and silence. The discomfort doesn't come from what's shown, but from what can never be forgotten.
Oh, my daughter, a congenial atmosphere, my cherry pie.
Lolita is one of the most uncomfortable films in cinema history. And not because of what it shows, but because of what it suggests. Kubrick adapted Nabokov's controversial novel with surgical coldness. A story about an adult's obsession with a young girl, told from his point of view. But far from justifying him, the film exposes him with irony and detachment. The truly disturbing part is how the protagonist tries to rationalize the unforgivable, while Kubrick lets the audience draw their own conclusions. There's no sentimentality, no melodrama, just discomfort, moral ambiguity, and a silence heavier than any dialogue. The film shows nothing explicit, yet suggests everything, and that makes it all the more unsettling. Lolita isn't provocative for the sake of it. It's an uncomfortable, devastating masterpiece that portrays the most destructive form of desire, without frills or excuses. An uncomfortable mirror that still sparks debate more than 60 years later. Persona is not just an uncomfortable film, it's a hypnotic experience that watches you as you try to watch it. Bergman creates a psychological duel between two women. An actress who's chosen to stop speaking, and her nurse, who slowly begins to unravel in the face of that silence. The discomfort doesn't come from external conflict, but from within. Identities dissolving, masks shattering, raw truths we'd rather not hear. The scene where Alma breaks her good girl image and recounts a brutally raw sexual experience is one of the most uncomfortable and powerful ever filmed. A mixture of guilt and disgust, yet also longing and pleasure. The camera is relentless. There's no music to soften the blow, no traditional plot. Just stares, silences, and confessions that leave us stripped bare before ourselves. Persona is not an easy film, but that's where its power lies. Its atmosphere is as cold as it is devastating, as intellectually sharp as it is emotionally unsettling. By the end, you don't quite know what happened, but you know something inside you moved, and it won't go back to where it was.
Let strangers in the
A Clockwork Orange is one of the most controversial and misunderstood films in cinema history. Kubrick didn't just film a story about violence. He crafted a deeply uncomfortable reflection on free will, punishment, and the morality imposed by the state. Through Alex, a sadistic yet charismatic young man, we are confronted with the worst in human nature. We witness beatings of the homeless and abuse of women, all from Alex's perspective. But the truly disturbing part begins when the system decides to correct him by stripping away his free will entirely. The violence isn't there to entertain, it's there to disturb, to show us a society just as dehumanized as its own criminals. The imagery is striking, yes. But what lingers is the question: what makes us human? The ability to choose evil, or the imposition of good? Kubrick doesn't offer answers, only a masterpiece that continues to spark ethical and philosophical debates over 50 years later. And that is its most uncomfortable truth. It forces us to question our morality, even when we'd rather not.
J'ai demandé de venir parce que je voulais que tu sois présent.
Cash doesn't need to scream to make you uncomfortable. Haneke builds unbearable tension from the everyday, from what goes unsaid, from what remains hidden. The story revolves around a French bourgeois family that begins receiving anonymous videotapes. Someone is watching them, but the real unease doesn't come from who is filming them, but why. Gradually, what appears to be an external threat reveals something far more disturbing: a historical guilt buried beneath the comfort of an affluent life. Cash deals with colonialism, systemic racism, and how the West has learned to look the other way. And it contains what is, in my view, one of the most shocking, unexpected, and raw scenes in cinema history, if not the most. Filmed in a single, unbroken take, without music, as if the camera itself didn't dare to look away. It feels almost real. This is a masterpiece of discomfort. Not because of what it shows, but because of what it forces us to face. What is hidden, yet always present. Haneke offers no answers, only a lingering question. What guilt are we willing to ignore just to keep sleeping peacefully? Few films can emotionally destroy the viewer without a single scene of direct violence. Requiem for a Dream is one of them. It's not just a story about addiction, it's about how dreams rot from the inside out. 4 characters, 4 lives that begin with hope. The hope to improve, to escape, to be happy, and end up trapped in a nightmare with no exit. Aronofsky doesn't film drugs. He films the descent, the physical, mental, and emotional decay, the isolation, the desperation, the complete loss of control. And he does it with an almost hypnotic rhythm, an unforgettable score, and increasingly frenetic editing that becomes unbearable. The discomfort doesn't just come from what you see, but from what you feel. The mother in front of the TV, Harry without an arm, Marion selling herself. Each image sticks like a scar. It's a devastating, harsh, and honest film. It doesn't preach, but it never leaves you indifferent. It's a free fall into the void, and you, as the viewer, can do nothing to stop it.
Ciao bella. Wieso?
Funny Games is not a conventional horror movie. It's a brutal critique of the viewer, a direct slap in the face of anyone who seeks violence as entertainment. Haneke gives us no relief, no catharsis. Instead, he makes us accomplices. The 2 young men who invade the house have no motive, no backstory. They're just there to play, to kill, to break the 4th wall, and to laugh at you as they destroy an innocent family. Everything is designed to make you uncomfortable. The long takes, the use of silence, the moments that aren't shown, and more disturbingly, the ones that are. When you expect something to happen, it doesn't. The film mocks you for thinking there was hope. And when you can't take any more, Haneke forces you to keep watching. He even rewinds the story in front of your eyes, as if saying, "You thought this was just a movie? No, this is torture, and you're part of it." Funny Games isn't disturbing because of its violence. It's disturbing because it strips you bare. It looks you in the eye and asks, "Is this what you wanted to see?" And you, silently, keep watching. There's no gratuitous blood, no heroes, no justice, only suffering, and you, observing all of it. Haneke doesn't want to entertain. He wants to confront you with yourself, and he succeeds. Because when the movie ends, you're not disturbed by what you saw, but by what you were willing to watch, and not knowing why. Irreversible is not just a film. It's a devastating experience. Gaspar Noé tells the story in reverse, forcing you to witness the hell first, and only afterwards, everything that was lost. From the opening moments, chaos reigns, a spinning, uncontrolled camera, a nightmarish environment, a horrific crime, and then comes the scene. One of the most brutal, prolonged, and painfully realistic ever captured in cinema. 7 minutes, no music, no cuts, no mercy, just a woman, completely alone, being assaulted and destroyed. But the truly unbearable part isn't the violence, it's the structure. It's seeing how, after the horror, life was still beautiful. It's realizing that everything shattered in a single instant. And that love, routine, happiness, they were real, they were tangible. Irreversible doesn't just leave you breathless, it leaves you without escape. Because what you've seen cannot be unseen, and what you've felt, it never quite leaves. The Piano Teacher doesn't need blood or graphic violence to leave you completely devastated. It is perhaps the most uncomfortable film ever made, not because of what it shows, but because of what it makes you feel. Haneke drags you to the depths with surgical coldness. No raised voices, no gimmicks. Erica is a piano teacher, impeccable, brilliant, unshakable. But behind that perfect facade lies a hell of emotional repression, suppressed desire, perversion, humiliation, and self-destruction. She lives with her mother in a relationship as suffocating as it is toxic, a psychological prison that has shaped every corner of her identity. Her body, her intimacy, her will, none of it truly belongs to her. Then, a young student appears, naive, idealistic, and everything begins to unravel. What could have been an escape becomes a deeper descent into the darkest parts of herself. There is no eroticism here, only discomfort, fear, and humiliation, a tension so dense you could cut it with a knife. The Piano Teacher doesn't strike. It dismantles you slowly. It looks you in the eye and tells you that true horror doesn't need monsters or gore. All it needs is a person broken from within, trapped in a world where not even love can save them. And when it ends, there is no relief, only silence.